Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another installment of Lyles Figure Files. Hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving. Mine was awesome. Had lots of turkey, ham, macaroni and cheese, the works. It was great. I don't know about you guys, but there's something that feels a little bit off still about post 20 whatever, whenever Toys R Us closed. That was my first stop on every Black Friday. Back in the days where they weren't open on Thanksgiving, and you get up at 2 in the morning to get in line at the stores, waiting to see what new sales were there. You're armed with your circulars, all set, figuring out what you're gonna buy, making your moves, going down to figure out, getting your strategy all set, then going to KB at the mall, in Target, in Walmart, and feeling very satisfied before you take your nap, and then do it all over again Black Friday afternoon. And while I'm in the midst of flashbacking, I figured I'd look at some figures I've been picking up recently, been reviewing on Lyles Movie Files, the Age of Apocalypse X-Men Marvel Legend figures, because it's taking me down this nostalgia path of one of my all-time favorite X-Men crossovers. This is the 1995 event where Professor Xavier was killed by his son, Legion, and it all falls on Magneto to lead the X-Men through this dystopian future where Apocalypse reigns supreme. Age of Apocalypse is a killer story. It's one of the all-time best X-Men stories, arcs, whatever. Definitely check it out. Highly recommend that you go to your local comic book store, maybe Amazon. Right now is a good time to do it because you can take advantage of Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday sales to take advantage and grab it at a really cheap price. It's really worth it to just get the whole omnibus, read it all, take a whole month. This would be a good time as well to read through it so you can see and experience one of the best stories from the 90s. I'm all into AOA right now. I am loving the fact that Hasbro has provided us with two waves, a couple deluxe figures from this Age of Apocalypse world. And I want to start off with the positives before I go into the negatives. There's always negatives with us, right? But they've done some really great stuff so far with these. And I just wanted to bring up those figures before the ones I really think they need to fix. So, first up, Sunfire. We got a version of this from Hasbro early on. This one is great. All the translucent pieces really helped to light him up really nicely. And I just thought they did an amazing job of getting that silhouette with the half mask face just perfect. And then this is a great figure. No complaints with Sunfire. Then from Wave 2, Rogue. And she's another one they did an amazing job on as well, even right down to her moon boots. The only thing, if I were to say was something they could fix, would be to add the cape that she had. But this is definitely a look that she had through most of it. I like this studded collar. This is something that became a signature element of all of these AOA X-Men. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on throughout. Another one with stud collar, part of the astonishing X-Men team that Rogue led, Wild Child. Another figure that they did a really good job, and I appreciate so much they got his articulation down just this perfect so he can crouch. I don't have Sabretooth yet, so I can't show you how good he looks hanging on the back of him, but I've seen a lot of people's collections and displays showing him riding along the back, just crawling on his shoulders, just like he is in that image there. I mean, that's something you want to be able to do with your figures, capture the looks from the comic books. And you're able to do that with Sabretooth and Wild Child, so I can't wait to actually get that guy. Track him down. X-Man is a good figure. Of all of the AOA characters, I wouldn't have put him in wave 1, 2, or 3. He is essential to a degree, but I want more of the X-Men before I get this guy, because it just makes me need the rest of the crew he was with, like Forge in particular, Mr. Sinister, and it's just like, here's another can of worms in the Age of Apocalypse line. So I wouldn't have minded waiting on him a little bit. Next up, Dark Beast. And you can see how great this figure is. They've got the paneling on his pants. The fur is great. He's got a sinister look on his face. The hair, great. He's even got the braids. They did a great job on him. Then there's Weapon X and Jean Grey. Now, Wolverine has a super massive head, but that's it. Really nice job on these two as well. And I love the fact that you can get the Weapon X characters right there, right away. And finally, on the really great, amazing section, the Build-A-Figure Sugar Man. It's really hard to complain about this guy whatsoever. Just a fantastic Build-A-Figure. Got his little hammer, these arms, these forearms, all move. He can actually stand. Never had a problem with Sugar Man toppling everyone over in the display, and he easily would. I forgot to bring my Apocalypse in here, but they did a nice job on him as well. He was a deluxe figure, so you didn't have to cobble together a bunch of characters to create him. That's great. I love that. It allowed us to get the Wave 2 Colossus figure, who I'm still building. So I've gone on and talked. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 good figures, right? So they've knocked out some really remarkable takes on these figures. I'm not counting Legion in this. They did a decent job on them. I don't really care about Legion as a character. So on to the negative. Let's get to it. So you see in this big gatefold, this was all the rage back in the 90s. You see the X-Men and all their pride and glory. And it's such a cool shot of this version of the X-Men. And you see lots of characters that still need to make the cut. So we've got Jubilee, we've got Gambit. Those are probably the two members of Gambit and then externals that I need the most. Bishop, of course, Quicksilver, and then Nightcrawler. And you see Rogue there in the background with her cape. So this was the most puzzling decision that we've gotten so far in regards to Age of Apocalypse. So when they made Blink, and they did not include her in the Age of Apocalypse wave, they made her in her Exiles outfit. You see the longer hair matched up with that studded collar here, the dress, the slit, all that. The only thing is you see that the dress doesn't quite connect to her sleeves the way it does here. So she's not wearing the gloves. It's one of those deals where they're kind of getting something right, but wrong in another take. So this figure of Blink really doesn't match up with what we would want as our Age of Apocalypse Blink. And it's funny because I mentioned Sugar Man never falls. My Blink figure always falls. When I think of Blink, this is what I think of. The bangs, the slanted hair, the ears, kind of showing off more of an elven appearance, and the arm sleeves, of course, and the daggers. They did kind of whip daggers in the figure, so that looked right. Her collar hangs over, no quiver there, but you see in this one, she's got a little leg band, a thigh band, if you will, sleeves that go all the way up to her fingers, the collar that goes all across, the quiver with her spikes, arrows, and the ponytail. And this is young Blink, and this is kind of important because she was very much the rogue Shadowcat Jubilee to Sabretooth, like how in the old comics Wolverine had Jubilee and Shadowcat. That was a relationship in Astonishing X or Age of Apocalypse, and I liked having this younger version of Blink, and I think we really need her. And I was kind of hoping, maybe we could just fix it with one thing that I was going to suggest later. But I think we just need an entirely different version of Blink. We need a whole new figure. And not too many changes off of this mold. We've gotten some vintage figures that are just featuring repaints. But I think, honestly, with the head sculpt, a younger head sculpt, and a quiver, we can use them from other figures. Maybe even a Danny Moonstar. I think we cover all the real essentials. We've got pieces to throw on a leg band as well. That's all we really need. So if we can do that, I would happily pay for a different version of Blink and put this version, the Exiles version, onto another shelf of teams that Hasbro probably won't complete. So next up is Morph. And Morph is one of those standout characters from that. And Morph, for some reason, again, gets made in his Exiles look. So you see here, he's got this darker blue, kind of purple, the purple cape, and he's more of a clown in Exiles than he is in Age of Apocalypse. Now, he's definitely not the somber, morbid character that you see, in a lot of other things, but he is absolutely not as clownish as he is in Exiles. So this head sculpt here with the, hey, how's it going, guys? That's how Morph was in Exiles, and this is 100% accurate to that look. So No complaints. But again, why are we doing this version of Morph in the Age of Apocalypse wave? This is how Morph should look. Turquoise, knee pads. I mean, it's just a significant difference. See again, Blink here on the side, and this is from Joe Madureira, who is, back in the mid '90s was the artist for X-Men. He'd basically taken a baton from Jim Lee, of that artist that we were most excited to see his work every issue in X-Men. And you see this look of Morph. He's not smiling so much. He's got he's got a fierce expression, but he's not so much the big clown that he is, like this head sculpt shows. So my big idea is, let's get a retro version of Morph. He's basically a repaint. Honestly, I don't care about the knee pads, but get the color scheme right, because there is a big difference. It kind of shines out. He stands out so much from all the other characters with this turquoise, the lighter magenta cape, the yellow clashing. Everybody else kind of has more of a darker look, and he brings so much color to this team. And it's like, yeah, you throw him in there with that, he looks better. He's actually one of the darker characters in this line just because of this color scheme, which doesn't fit at all with his persona, his personality. So definitely a mistake. I don't know what they were thinking here, because you see again, Morph is not so much the clown here. He's got fierce expressions. He's serious. He's not Sabretooth, but he's also not making jokes a mile a minute throughout this thing. So my big solution here is with Morph. Morph doesn't need accessories per se. So we repaint him, right? But include things that would fix at least 2 more figures. First off, Iceman. I don't know what they were doing with Iceman. You see this figure. Honestly, from this part up, he's great. So they could have thrown on a bit more armor pieces. You see the protrusions there on his chest. But the big issue is his hair. He doesn't have this spiky hair that this figure has. And this is based off of his Age of Apocalypse redo version from X-Force, when Wolverine's team came through to that reality, and Iceman and a lot of the heroes from Age of Apocalypse were now villains. This is not the version we needed for an Age of Apocalypse standard regular weight. It's just not. Iceman has hair, and his hair is also like Blink's. Got a little bang action up front. Maybe we get some more dazzling electric looking eyebrows. No mouth, which is perfectly rendered here. But I really hate that they did that with this figure, because it's way off from how he looked. And it's like throwing in, it would be like throwing in Infinity War Captain America in your Avengers Endgame display. Like, hey, what? This is fine. He had a beard, right? This is what he looked like. And it's just so far off, so wrong. It doesn't match up with the right time frame. So it's a big mistake. You could fix this really easily throwing in a new head sculpt for Morph. Problem solved. Another character that we can solve really easily with just a head sculpt change is Magneto. So I don't know if you can see the difference here with this picture and this version of Magneto. For whatever reason, Hasbro's decided this is the way we want to do Magneto. So we're going to have his skin showing and his eyes, nose, all that popping out. And that's not at all the signature look for Magneto during his time frame. It's basically always blacked out. And his eyes may show, maybe his mouth. But he's not doing that. The Mayfex figure, which honestly is probably a 100% improvement over the Marvel Legends version. You're paying pretty much 3 times as much, 4 times as much, maybe even 5 times as much version of this figure, because it's got the bangs on his hair. Now this figure with the unmasked head is not too bad. It's really decent, especially for the $22 price tag. But you see that one looks a little bit better, and you should expect that from a Mayfex figure to look much better. But you've got the unmasked, you've got the helmeted portrait, and this has the version if you really wanted to. but it also has the blacked out look, which he had through most of that anytime he wore the helmet. In addition to the cloth cape, which is better because it actually wraps around Magneto, unlike this one. And I'm not saying, hey, Hasbro, change up your whole format, make a cloth cape for Magneto. In this case, that's not what's going to happen, and they wouldn't do that. This is okay. Again, I'd prefer the cloth cape because Magneto typically had the cloak cape wrapped around him and either had the mask, the helmet on, or he was unmasked. But whatever. I think the biggest problem is we need this helmet filled in. And this one, they don't have to do anything else. I mean, honestly, I will probably just paint this figure myself. But we could also just have them do it. Include it as another head for Morph. That problem is solved. We get this look from Magneto that is kind of signature to this whole deal. Now, if you can see from this picture, there's another problem with this figure. Is a tights area. It should be purple, not red. Now, I've read that there is another, hey, let's go back to Age of Apocalypse, shocking, where Magneto's look has these red tights. And I think this is where the Hasbro Marvel Legend teams kind of slips up every so often. They go for whatever is at hand as opposed to the classic look of something. Where it's like, no, don't do this version of Magneto. Do the one from here. Do the one signature look from this deal. I mean, we've never gotten a Magneto with red tights before, so it's weird to introduce a version that doesn't have this, that doesn't have those purple tights. In this version where he doesn't even have, that's not even accurate to the source material. So it's a weird choice. Very questionable. I don't know what they're doing, but Morph would fix a lot of these problems. New head sculpts for Iceman, for Magneto, and the final two figures that would benefit greatly from different head sculpts. So first up is Shadowcat. Now you see that they really did try to knock out that head sculpt to get a fierce action shot of Catherine Pride. It doesn't quite work because her head sculpt is just, I don't know what the deal is. It's like she smelled something really bad. And maybe it's her head sculpt. But it just doesn't quite work. As so much we've seen from the X-Men, Chris Bachalo's artwork is really good at this point. And this is what she looks like. And I don't quite get that whole deal whatsoever with that figure's head sculpt. So maybe that's another one. Hasbro just looks through the heads of female heads that they've done so far, and here's another short hair character we can work on just to replace that, because I just don't think this version, that expression really works that well with her. And the other one is my boy, because this hairline is a disgrace. I just need them to fix that. Put some more hair on Cyclops' head, because oh my gosh, this thing is intense. It's so far back, and his hair really doesn't go far at all. It's like Cyclops is just a wild man, and his hair is just barely showing over. I mean, his hairline isn't existent at all. It's just kind of a really small amount of over his head, because he's always had that Kyle, and in this version his hair is taking up that whole deal, so you're still not seeing much of his face, too much of anything. And I just feel like this head sculpt really takes away too much. You're seeing way too much of his forehead for one, and it just does not look right because it's so far off from what Steve Epting did right there. And that's the look. I don't quite understand what happened where it's just like, yo, just keep cutting it back. I mean, that is a wicked hairline, and it's not a good look from my boy Cyclops. So all I'm asking Hasbro, let's get a retro vintage Morph, fix his colors, get a new head sculpt for Magneto, just the unmasked version, or the helmeted version. I keep saying unmasked, but the helmeted version, black it out. Get a new head for Iceman, fix it up with hair this time, and if you're so inclined, better hair from my boy Cyclops. Just a better head overall for Shadowcat. And then while we're at it, let's just knock out another Blink. And if that is not possible, then throw in a head for Blake, for Morph. And I'll call it quits. I'll be fine, honestly. I'll cobble together a quiver, but I just need the younger head sculpt of Blink. And that way, The four biggest issues with four characters, and six if you want to include Shadowcat, and Cyclops, are fixed in one figure. Let's get a different version of Morph, color corrected, four new head sculpts that go along with him, maybe even a more serious head sculpt for Morph, and we're all covered. And you can make him a deluxe version. I'll be fine paying extra. I'm perfectly fine with it. So for now, that's it. This episode of Lyles Figure Files has been filed.